be around the globe, in the chat room, on another planet, or on the other side. This is The Last Frequency. I'm Mike Vara, and hello to everybody on YouTube tonight. I decided I was going to just come back and try to do something that won't get me in trouble over here, and, basically use it to promote the rest of what we do. So why the hell not, right? I mean, Sunday. Jeffrey-Seelman is a professional clearing expert, teacher, author, psychic, and exorcist. After serving in the United States Air Force, he studied metaphysical thought and philosophy during the 1980s, and in 1992, Jeffrey brought his services to the public. Jeffrey clears negative emotional energy as well as negative spirits from individuals, living environments, property, and businesses. He also teaches individuals how to protect themselves from the effects of negative emotional energy generated by living people. Yeah, I know plenty of those living people. Negative and demonic spirits and methods to keep ourselves, families, homes, and businesses free and clear of accumulated negative emotional energy from the past and present. Born with psychic ability, Jeffrey has dedicated his life to helping those in need of his services. He's written essays and articles, as well as appearing many times on radio and television. And he'll be with us tonight here in just a few minutes. His website's www.starclear.com. He's linked up over on our website as well, over at lastfrequency.com. So, see, I am Mike Vara, and I'm about ready to bring my guest on, Jeffrey-Seelman. And, let me see here. I'll get him. I've already read off the bio, so we're all good there. And so I think Jeffrey is waiting in the wings, and barring no issues, we should be good. Let's see. Yeah, let's do that. Oh. Good evening, Jeffrey. How are you tonight?
Hello, Michael. Doing okay. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. It's nice to talk to you tonight.
Nice to talk to you.
All right. Well, listen, I've already read off your bio, and, I guess we could start out with maybe, I don't know, how did you get into this? How did you get into, doing these things that you do, especially the exorcisms and things? It sounds creepy.
I was born with psychic ability, and I had lots of experiences when I was a kid back in the 1960s, and when I went to high school in the 1970s. And after high school, I left in 1978, I went into the Air Force, and I used my psychic abilities as a way of just keeping out of trouble. I didn't really do very much, like, against the law or anything. It was just a matter of not getting caught doing kid stuff, and it worked, and even through the Air Force. And after I got out of the Air Force, now we're in the 1980s, I actually spent a lot of time studying life after death, spirit communication, good and evil, the nature of, all of these different subjects at different university libraries. I wasn't so much taking classes as I was, accessing the reference departments of ancient manuscripts and things that were translated into English from other languages that were very old, and I learned a few things. And about 1990, I fell into a group of people that were doing Ouija boards and things like that, and very successfully. They'd been doing Ouija boards and other things for 20 years, and a lot of them were psychics, really good ones too, and also well known. And so they were doing them very well, and I started to go to these groups, and even formed a relationship with one of the girls who was the head psychic, really. It was her house. We just hit it off. She was a big fan of Star Trek, and so was I. And we were the same age pretty much, and all of these things. And a couple of them had a problem. And one was a psychic and one was a writer. And they had a problem, separate problems in their homes. And these people who were very good at metaphysical things had tried and had a problem getting rid of what they thought were spirits in these two people's homes. And they said, Jeffrey, why don't you take a whack at that and try to see if you can do something about it. You know, you seem to be pretty talented at things. By that time, I was kind of operating the planchette, which is the device that rolls across the Ouija board, and I was going with the head girl. It just happened. And I said, okay, I'll take a look. And I was able to go in there and very quickly get rid of the problem. And they said, wow, that is really something incredible. You really have a talent, one that I didn't even know that I had, really. I knew that I was psychic. I didn't know that I could really do this and have that effect upon somebody's environment. And these people were good, and they had been doing metaphysical things professionally, not the writer maybe, but the psychics for decades. They're very powerful and very good people. Good people and very talented. And so I did. I put a small ad in the newspaper in 1990 or so, 1991, and didn't get much business, Michael. But I drew the attention of the local newspaper and ended up in a 3-page article, which drew some attention. They got a few more jobs, and then somehow the only metaphysical show on television at the time, which was called Sightings, which is on Paramount at the time, later on it'll be on the Sci-Fi Channel, they had gotten a hold of me because I had 3 women, young women, had called me, and they were seeing shadows walk past their shower curtain and were waking up with indentations in their bed. And they had called me, and I think they were in touch with Sightings somehow, and Sightings separated us. I stayed at home. They put them in a hotel because they said, we can't wait 3 days for the cameras to come out from Los Angeles. I live in Wisconsin, in Milwaukee. And so they put them in a hotel, and I never spoke to them again until I saw the day of the clearing, the day of the filming. I went out there, and I got rid of the problem. And it never came back. And they said so on the show. They said, wow, this problem never came back. And that kind of started a chain of events of me doing radio shows and television shows back in the 90s and in 2000s and things like that. And so that's how it really began.
Amazing. And so you're an emotional clearing expert. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
One of the things that I noticed, Michael, when I was going into people's homes, this is before the internet ever came out.
Oh, good times, yeah.
I know. And so that I noticed that the air was full of emotional energy, regardless if there was a spirit in there or not. Some people thought there was a spirit in their home, but there was really not. It was just full of emotional energy from past tenants and present tenants. I mean, arguments and things like that. And so one of the things that I was doing, Michael, during clearing out of maybe spirits, because at first all I handled was bad things, like spirits, negative spirits in people's homes. And so I noticed there was a lot of negative emotional energy in these homes, some maybe generated by the spirit and some by people. And so I started to actually clear people's homes and businesses and also do personal clearings at wellness centers in the area that had nothing to do with spirits. That essentially, so now I have not only part of my job as an exorcist, but also as a clearing expert, because now people are contacting me like professional people that had no issues with spirits and just wanted a clearing, which takes about 45 minutes or an hour. And that actually turned out to be the larger portion of my business as people got to know me. That it's like, well, I don't have any spirits in my house, so that's not why I'm calling Jeffrey. It just, we moved in, my wife and I, and it just doesn't feel really good in here. The place is clean, but it just feels weird. And we don't know what it is. And I said, well, it probably is some emotional energy from past tenants. That's the most likely scenario. So I'd end up going out to people's homes and people's businesses and just clearing out negative energy by these different methods that I used of bringing essentially energy from the other side, which means non-physical reality, and shaping it into energy that would push negative emotional energy out of people's energy fields and also out of their homes and businesses, also known as a clearing. Shaping energy, raw energy from the other side, kind of like spirits do. And then using that energy to release and push energy out of people's homes and businesses and out of people's energy fields, known as a clearing, like I said. So I was now also not only an exorcist, but also doing clearings. And some people who only wanted clearings and said, you're really great at this. I feel so much better. I was just getting this stuff again and again and again. It's not an ego thing or whatever. They would just say, wow, this really works, but you know what? This exorcism thing, it scares us. Why do you have to say you're an exorcist? And I said, I don't know. That's what I do. I can do that, and I can also do this. I can do more than one thing. And so I was doing a lot of radio at the time, a guest on radio shows, local radio morning shows and things like that. I was on 13 Most Shocking Hollywood Curses a little bit later on with Linda Blair and Ellen Burstyn. And people they said, why don't you just try the clearing thing? Drop the exorcism thing. It scares people, and just do the clearing. Just say you're a clearing expert. And you know what? I did enough radio shows, and I tried it. I actually took it off of my website, Michael, for a while. But this is back in like the year 2000. And I actually took it off of my website and said, I'll just maybe do clearings, and that is because that is the greater problem. And what happened was that one day a lady called me up and said, I'm having a really bad problem. I really think there's a spirit in my home. And she gave me a rundown of all the things that were happening to her and her family. And I thought, yeah, it sounds to me like there is a spirit in your home. And she said to me, do you know anybody who can possibly handle this? I notice in your website you don't really do this. I just was stunned. I really couldn't speak. I was like, wait a minute now. This is what my spirit guides trained me to do. I said, I'm first and foremost an exorcist and also a clearing expert. And I said, wait a minute, I can't turn these people away. I can actually get rid of spirits in people's homes. That's what I'm good at doing, besides doing clearings. The clearings came 7 years after I did exorcisms. I was clearing people's homes of negative energies anyways, just to clear their homes while I was also getting rid of the spirits. And so that I thought, you know what? I'm just going to be me. I'm not going to let people tell me what I do or that word scares them or whatever. So I actually just put both down. If you have a problem with spirits, no problem. I can help. If you have just negative emotional energy in your home, I can help. And it turns out that many people have both problems going on. If there's a negative spirit in your home, you probably have a fair amount of emotional energy as well. And so I do both.
I see. And does it always work? I mean, is there times when it won't work? Do the people have to believe, or do they have to? What's their part in that? I mean, what do they have to do besides?
No belief necessary. Does it always work? I would say no, that most of the time. I would say 98% of the time it does. There are times where it doesn't. Very often there are symbiotic relationships between people and spirits that are unhealthy. And some people develop these subconscious relationships with people who have passed on, and maybe they don't want them gone, and they just think they do. They
Yeah.
might feel that, this, somehow in some way that they deserve to be attacked, that it's meant to be, and only God can help them. There's a lot of reasons, and so there are certain people that I can't help for whatever reason, but it's a very small percentage. And yes, it usually does work. And certainly I can clear negative emotional energy out of a home, which is something that I do. And that is also a great part of my business. I would say that that is 75% of Star Clear, which is the name of my business. That is 75% of the work that I do does not really revolve around anything to do with spirits.
Oh, okay. And what about the psychic part of things? Is that must be a big helper in doing the work that you do?
Not only can I see spirits when I want to, I can tell the difference between a negative spirit and a demonic spirit, which are two different kinds of spirits. And I can see negative emotional energy when I want to. I got to kind of turn on my psychic fog lights, so to
Yeah.
speak. But if you can see something, Michael, then you know when it's gone. So if I can see negative emotional energy, which is not conscious, but free floating emotional energy that is usually generated by people throughout
Yeah.
time, usually many people have lived in our apartments and condos, maybe, or homes, or there's just a lot of negative emotional energy from arguments or whatever. If you can see it, if I can see it, then I can do something about it. I can apply a proper energy to it, shape that energy, and push it out until the home or the person is clear. And it's not a painful thing when I work on people. It's not an exorcism. It's just a flushing out of emotional energy.
And well, what exactly consists of an exorcism when if you have to go that deep into a problem? How is I mean, is it anything like what we see on TV? Probably not, right? Or is it?
There are some examples that are relatively accurate, and there are a lot that are not. It's certainly nothing like you see in the movies. That usually spirits attack people from a distance, meaning that they throw energy and feelings and telepathic concepts and ideas that are nonverbal communication at a person in order to activate their emotional systems and make them feel worse about themselves, amplify their angers, and get them to do things that they would not normally do. And so that is the usual attack. And exorcisms are about connection, dissolving the connection, and getting the spirit out of there and away from the person or the family. And so it's a number of different things in order to perform an exorcism, and that includes clearing the environment of negative emotional energy and also the person's energy field. Say the attack is on a person, clearing their energy fields of negative emotional energy as well. That is also part of an exorcism. So there are certain steps that have to be taken in order to do a successful exorcism.
And how can you be so sure that they're not going to, I don't know, cling to you in some way?
They don't want to come near me.
Really?
That's probably not a good idea because I know how to deal with them. In 1997, I was approached by a group of spirits. Now, I can see spirits. I've been talking to spirits since I was a little kid, and also getting information. And so one fine day, I was walking down by Lake Michigan. I lived just a couple of blocks from Lake Michigan in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And I've also lived in Las Vegas and many places. But at that time, I was living in Milwaukee, and I was walking along this path, and a spirit appeared next to me. Probably only one that I could see. It's simply these are non-physical beings, and said, Jeffrey, we've been watching you for a long time, longer than you ever might know. because I had experiences when I was a kid. And they said, look, we think you're ready to join this organization of higher spirits that go around and help people that are in trouble. It's a large group. But we want you to think about it because it will require your entire life, meaning that once you get into this group and start really getting into the larger jobs of really kicking bad things out of people's homes around the world, because now the internet was coming into focus just in 1997, that you're not going to get out of it. We want you to make a decision. If you're going to join this group, it's going to be for life. And we'll give you 3 days to think about it. And think hard, because it's for life.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is. And I did. I took 3 days, Michael. I did not say yes right away, because I thought, wow, for life, and what does this all mean? What does this mean? And I did not know the spirit. I'd never seen him before or whatever. It was like somebody new. And I thought about it, and I thought, Jeffrey, you were born with psychic ability. You had aliens in your bedroom when you were 3 years old. Nothing in your life is normal. When I was a young kid, I would be able to tell my mom that grandma was going to call, your grandmother was going to call at 8:03 a.m. or 2:20 p.m. or whatever, and I was always right. And all sorts of weird things happened to me like that when I was young. My mother was not frightened of it. She found it useful. What time is grandmother going to call tomorrow? 8:17. And 8:17, whatever. It scared the H out of my father, but and he was a good man. But my mother, you found it useful. And so my whole life had been like that, and of weird experiences. And so I thought about it for 3 days, and I thought, Jeffrey, I was talking to myself, in my head, and I said, this all has to be about something. You're already helping people for 7 years now professionally. You've already been on national television 3 or 4 times, Strange Universe and all this and these different shows, and on the radio, having to go into the morning shows, which I swore I'd never do. I was like, me going on the radio? Going into the studio? No, wild horses couldn't drag me in a place like that. But I did it to help people, to inform people of what I thought was going on, maybe in their homes, and that I could help, and the science behind all of this, because I do think it's science. So anyways, I finally, after 3 days, I just put out a big yes, I'll do it. And then I saw all of these spirits kind of gather around me, and it was kind of a ritualistic thing. I was given some kind of non-physical sword, and I had to repeat some things that were non-religious. It was just, I promised to help people and this kind of thing, and to devote myself into helping my fellow human beings. And I did. And it was kind of interesting, Michael, because it wasn't more than 15 minutes later that I was actually confronted by a demonic spirit. It happened right after I did the ritual, and I knew it didn't come from them. I knew it came from, I knew inherently, I would know these things.
You were being tested.
Exactly. It was kind of like the other side, the negative side, the bad guys, the evil guys were really pissed off, really angry, excuse the language, were really angry that I had done this. And so the first thing that happened was that I got attacked by a demonic spirit. How did I know? I could feel the power of this spirit. And he looked just like a regular human being. It was not a monstrous countenance. And immediately I pulled my sword without even knowing it. I pulled my sword out, that was non-physical. And all of a sudden I'm locking swords with this non-physical being, and sparks are flying. And it was wild, and I felt really frightened, because it was like, can I get the best of this thing? Nobody was giving me any help.
And what does it feel like to be attacked by something like that?
Really bad, because they're very powerful spirits. demonic spirits are not like negative spirits. Negative spirits are just people who are dead, who have passed on, and continue to do negative things like attack people who are living and maybe other spirits. These are garden variety negative spirits. They can still do a lot of damage, but a demonic spirit is a different kind of being. It might be said that they're the counterpart of angels as far as their power goes. And I'm not that powerful. I am no angel.
Oh,
And so they're very strong and they attack very quickly and they design negative tools and objects in order to throw at people in order to have an emotional effect upon people and to get them to do things that they would never do.
and that's what
And
I
so
was
that is,
wondering, if they attack emotionally like that, and make people depressed and not themselves, I guess.
they do. That's exactly what they do, Michael. And they attack people that might already be feeling bad about something and be slightly depressed. And they try to activate their energy field so they feel really depressed. If they have anger, like say their boss at work or their significant other or something like that, they try to come close, throw energy, emotional energy at a person, and they can see us very clearly. And that activates our emotional energy and can get us to do something on a moment's notice that the next morning we say, I can't believe I did that.
So then, what happens when a person, is maybe getting attacked by some, one of these dark energies, and they don't know it? So they go to the psychiatrist or what have you, and he says, "Oh, you're depressed. Let me put you on some pills." And I think some of that stuff might open the door even more for
Absolutely.
these
It's very
dark.
true.
Yeah.
There are a lot of drugs out there that people probably shouldn't be given. And just widespread. The pharmaceutical industry has a pill for everything these days.
Yeah.
And so, and even things that don't exist. But the idea is that absolutely that if you go to a doctor and say, I'm seeing spirits, they're going to give you medication and maybe even put you in a psychiatric ward for a few days or something like that. So that does happen. But I also don't think that every person who thinks they see a spirit
Right.
or thinks that they're hearing spirits is actually hearing spirits. Some people do have mental illness issues, clinical depression, anger issues, and whatnot, and it's not always spirits. But I think a portion of what is happening in our world today, a portion of the violence, are spirits pushing people over the edge, people in power, regular people, maybe they're angry at their boss, and all of a sudden a negative spirit says, hey, this is a good target, a demonic spirit especially, and I'm going to work on this person until they get so angry that maybe they're going to do something about it, like buy a gun and go in there and shoot everybody in their class or everybody in their workplace.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys regret what they do or whatever. Usually men who do these things, but not always.
Some of them claim that they don't remember doing it at all.
Yeah, and sometimes it really is just the fact of their awful personalities. And
Yeah.
sometimes it is that they might have been pushed over the edge by a negative spirit. I just want to make it really clear, Michael, that not all the violence in the world is caused by spirits. And so everybody who's not going in front of a judge for doing something really violent, the cause of that are spirits. That's not what I'm saying. But a percentage of those are.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. And so you mentioned the internet, and one of the questions that I used to, I used to run this by some psychiatrists who used to come on the show, and I like to get your take on it. What about cyberspace and evil? Can this evil? I mean, probably can, right? Use cyberspace as well now.
I don't think it uses cyberspace directly. I think it uses people who are on
Okay.
cyberspace.
Yeah, that
I don't
makes.
think, that cyberspace, I used to work, my background's in technology. I was in the Air Force, and after that, I worked for when cable technology was around, and after that, I went into internet technology. At the same time, I was doing StarClear. I was just doing it at night. I was doing this work, I was just doing it at night. And so I was around at the beginning of the internet. The internet is a fine thing. It brought us a lot of really great things. We can get in touch
Yeah.
with former classmates. We can. I don't have to go in line and wait for concert tickets anymore. I can take a cup of coffee and go and get a concert ticket on the internet. We can make airline reservations on the internet. Think of all the wonderful things we can do on the internet.
What we're doing right
But,
now.
but, there's a big but here going on, my friend.
Big butt.
That also with it came other problems. Now, when I first went to work for an internet company, I read a booklet. We had to, everybody did, that was designed by the guy who owned and built the internet company. And the very first thing it said was, the internet is nothing more than a group of computers hooked together. Very first thing it said in this book. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant, because it's true. And so what really is going on is now everybody is in everybody else's living room.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that can lead to problems because now we don't know who we're talking about. Before, we actually had to face our neighbors and talk to them. And when I grew up in the 1960s and 70s, and I'll just go into this very quickly, but I was, ages 1 to 10. I was born in 1959. And so I was just 1 to 10 in the 60s, and high school and all that in the 70s, a teenager. We didn't discuss religion and politics in school or with our neighbors. We had block parties. It was considered to be really bad form and really rude to talk with our neighbors about religion or politics, because that went nowhere. I grew up in an area where everybody was different. And so it was more like, hey, what time does the barbecue start? I don't care what religion you belong to. You're Catholic, you're Protestant, whatever, fine. As far, as politics go, you vote for who you want to vote for. We lived by example back in the 70s. And that's why I grew up. My parents, were friends with people next door and whatever, and around who were far more conservative than they were. They never talked about it. They were best friends. Vote for who you want to. But nowadays, everybody's in everybody else's business.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
like, you vote for this person. Why are you doing this? You're my enemy. And if you belong to this political party, you're the enemy. You're evil or whatever. Either side. I'm not pointing fingers at any side. It's just that we're now talking to people that we don't even know. And all the information that we see on the internet is not necessarily true, but people's opinion. And then one more thing I want to say about this. When I was growing up in the 1960s and 70s, the national news was half an hour long. Walter Cronkite, Howard K. Smith, 30 minutes every day. And not even on weekends. Eventually, it was on Sunday nights, but 30 minutes. And then local news after that was 30 minutes. For some reason, back in the 1970s and 60s and 50s, when my parents were, younger, everybody thought that was long enough.
Yeah,
They gave us the rundown. This is happening around the world, and you know what? Now it's time for the Beverly Hillbillies.
Exactly.
Or Bewitched or something like that. It's not like 24 hours of like thinking about, politics and news, and really, if you take a look at it, they only give us bad information. It's like a death count. Here are all the bad things happening around the world, and by the way, it's these guys' fault.
Yeah,
The other people. It's kind of messed up. It's the negative side of the internet. And the problem is that if you take a look at why, it's pretty simple. When the telephone came along, it was kind of a mess, that they had like party lines for a long time and all of that. You didn't know who was on the party line. It was like, hey, can you get off? I'm talking to somebody. Please, just for a while, neighbor. And all of that. We had problems, and the internet is really new. It really only came about to the public in about 1997. And so that is what we're talking 26 years. It's brand new. And
Oh
we
yeah,
really
it's just
don't,
a
we have
baby.
not mastered the art of how to balance out what is fact and fiction, what is somebody's opinion from fact. And for a lot of people, it's essentially the very first library card. I grew up in a time there was no internet, or there was no VCRs, CDs, or anything like that. And so people had to talk to each other. And so these days it's kind of like we're talking to people we don't know, and I
Yeah.
got to mention, Jim Gaffigan, because his family lives here in Milwaukee, his wife's family, and one of his great jokes was so well done that he said that we take more pictures of our children today than my father ever looked at me.
Yeah.
And it's true. We're constantly doing these things, and not even taking the time to enjoy them. And so they didn't have cameras in concerts when I was growing up. They didn't allow it.
No, they didn't.
That's the one thing that really they'd really look for when you're coming into a concert. And I went to a lot of concerts and still do, that they were looking for cameras. The other stuff they didn't care so much about. They were more concerned with somebody taking pictures or recording.
Yeah.
And so it's just different today. And so yeah, it's not cyberspace. It's our inability to deal with instant communication and the constant barrage of information that we get, some of which are really just opinions and not necessarily fact. All of a sudden, everybody is an expert.
Oh yeah, now with the internet, yeah, you got everybody's an expert. You got uh especially I tell you, you could go on Facebook and you've got, I mean, people will tell you everything you want to know. They,
Oh
you
yeah, yeah, and it's the nasty things that people will say to each other over the
yeah.
smallest things.
So is that
You're different. You are different. You look different. You're belong to a different religion or different political party, and you're evil. And I'm like, I didn't grow up this way. I know how people, must feel about this,
yeah.
being young or being old. I'm 63. I didn't grow up like this.
Well,
I
I'm
didn't grow up hating
51 and
my
I didn't
neighbor.
either. I
Yeah,
yeah. It was, we all got along, and I'll tell you, when I
yeah.
was a younger guy, I didn't care either way. Which I still don't really care which side you land on. As long as you're a decent person, that's all that matters to me.
That's all that matters. And I refuse to hate people because they belong to a different political party, or they belong to a different religion or no religion,
Yeah.
or that they look different and they have a different skin color. I refuse to hate somebody for that reason. I was not brought up that way.
Oh,
And neither were people
absolutely.
around me. Neither were people around me. We had to get along. I came from a major city. We would never survive if we could kill each other over these kind of things, the color of our skins and religions and all the rest of this kind of thing. Everybody belonged to a different
Well,
religion, and then many people have different colors of skins and all the rest of it, and that's what makes the world go around.
and that is why I think evil is prospering.
Absolutely, it's very true, Michael. I'm glad you said that. That right now we're in the position where we are fighting over the smallest of things, and that has drawn negative spirits en masse to the physical world, now physical level, the planet Earth as well, and to essentially get us to finish ourselves off. And
Yeah,
we're doing a real good job of it.
I was just gonna say we are doing a good job of it, and it seems like every, I don't know, so many thousands of years something happens on this planet, and maybe we're getting a first-hand look at what happens. It just, we're like kids with matches. They throw
Oh,
us in a
it's
room with
true.
the matches, and we go right for them.
That's very well said and very well put, Michael. That we're just not that advanced yet. 150 years ago, we were riding around on horses.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now we have technology, and we think that somehow that we're all, really advanced. But really on an emotional level, we're not all that much farther along. We're 150 years farther than riding horses along. Nothing to do with horses. I like horses, but we're not there yet.
I'll
And
tell
so
you,
emotionally, we're not there yet.
we're closer to going back to horse and buggy. We
Oh,
keep
I
it
think
up.
so. It's amazing, and myself just watching us kind of when in the 1970s, there was no argument in this country, the United States or some other countries as well, because I'm a very worldly person. I've been around the world a little bit. That there was no argument back in the 70s if there was pollution. There was no argument.
Yeah.
Everybody's, was like, it's a problem. Look at Los Angeles, it's in a haze. And we have problems. New York City, we're in a haze. My city, Milwaukee, where things are problems. We can smell it. And it's not good. And we had problems with the water. We had problems with food. And nowadays, it's kind of like a belief system. It's a belief system. Either you believe it or you don't. The powers that be have turned it into a religion. The powers that be in our world have turned us against each other successfully.
And so would you say they need an exorcism?
They need to be dethroned.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know about an exorcism. I think some of them are possessed, or maybe being harassed by negative spirits, the leaders of our world. Not everyone, but I mean some. It's possible, but I think what really has happened is more of people we don't see that are behind the scenes that have no problem polluting our planet, and that somehow that God is going to come down and clean it all up for us. And I say to them, don't count on it.
well, right. I think it goes without saying. He'll help those who help themselves, and we're a long ways from helping ourselves right now. So let me ask you back about the demonic spirits and the negative spirits. Have either of them ever lived? Where do these things come from?
It's an excellent question, Michael. Negative spirits are just people who have passed on, were probably negative in their lifetime, and now that they are on the other side, which is non-physical reality, which is also called heaven, which is a really beautiful name for it, because it really is a wonderful place, and it does exist, and it's just not a religious place necessarily. I mean, not to say there isn't religion going on, but
Yeah.
it's not, you don't have to have a special card to get in. And so negative spirits were alive. They are simply people who were alive, and now that they are on the other side, they are continuing to do negative things for a whole bunch of different reasons. Because if you ask any criminal why they do things, you'll get a million answers. I want money. I'm a negative person. I like to hurt people. All the dumb things you hear, in a courtroom.
Yeah.
And so it's not much difference. I don't really believe that people change very much after they pass on. And so people who are negative are not suddenly going to go, wow, now that I'm dead, I feel like so wonderful. And I'm going to change all my ways. And I really like people. I didn't mean to do all these terrible things to people. And now that I found out that everybody really was watching on the other side, that all information is knowable, and that everybody was watching me do all these things, there are no secrets, that it's kind of like, oh, I've changed my ways. Sometimes that just makes them more angry. And so they just continue to do negative things. Demonic spirits are a different kind of being. Demonic spirits may or may not have lived a physical life. It's my opinion that they probably have. After speaking to so many spirits and getting a lot of good information over decades and decades and remembering little bits and pieces of my past life, I don't believe in past lives. I remember my past lives. Difference. There's a big difference there. I don't remember all of them, but I remember bits and pieces and deaths and all of that. And so I remember how to do some of the things that I do from that. And so I believe that, from all of this, that angels did not start out as angels. I do believe that there are angels. I do believe that there is a God, but also that
I don't think they started out that way, meaning angels. I think they probably worked their way up just like we're doing. And through a long period of time, and they got more powerful and more powerful and more wise. And angels really do wonderful things to help people, and they are there to help people. And along with that, you also have negative people and spirits that also did the same thing, worked their way up, except for they don't like humans and they do negative things and they like doing negative things and they're sadistic.
Yeah.
And their reasoning for doing things are really beyond our comprehension, meaning that it's terrible to find out, like here on Earth as well, that the reason that somebody killed a bunch of people is just because they like to kill people. We don't understand that. The
See,
average person doesn't understand that, and I don't understand that. And so the idea of why a demonic spirit wants to hurt an innocent person or attack a child in its cradle, which they do, is beyond our comprehension because we don't understand those things. They're sadistic creatures, and they do things for reasons that are probably psychotic.
yeah, and I had a guest one time. It made sense to me. I says, why? I asked the question, why do people do so? Some people do such horrible things, the things that I couldn't even imagine doing to somebody, and I was told, well, those are people with no souls. Uh,
No. Oh, everybody has a soul, or
yeah,
you wouldn't be here. The
oh,
soul animates the soul.
that's the
I should
power
say this.
supply,
I
isn't
should
it?
say, no, no, it's not.
Oh,
That essentially your soul is you. It is everything besides your physical body. It is everything that is non-physical. One way to look at it is this. Your brain is physical, your mind is non-physical. Your emotions are non-physical. Your psychological systems are non-physical. Your soul is non-physical because your soul is indestructible. It's not a religious thing. It is held together by some kind of glue, and not literally a glue, but I mean that some kind of force. That's a better term. Force that I don't understand. I don't know everything, but it's impossible to destroy a soul, and the soul is you. So when my clients ask me, what is my soul? Is it a battery inside of me? Is it a light inside of me? Is it a piece of God? It could be a little spark of God inside of there. It could be. I don't know. But when I say, look, if you want to see your soul, go look in the mirror and look into your eyes to the person that you are. Just look in the mirror on a physical level. That is your soul. You are your soul. It is you.
oh, okay.
Everything besides your non-physical body, which will drop within 100 years most likely, unless you're really, really lucky. And so most people die before they're 100 years old, so I can safely say that on our show here tonight, that when a person dies, that they're not even going to know they're dead until they see their body lying in a hospital room or on the ground or in an accident or wherever, however they die, that you would not even know that you're dead unless you looked down and saw your body.
So for me, it's not so much death that I fear; it's how I'm gonna die that kind of creeps me out. Because I don't know. You see a lot of people going in the hospital and they're in bad shape, and I mean nobody wants to go out like that. But then I've had some tell me that those people's souls have already exited the body. Would that be true or?
Well, I guess the first thing I want to say is that the comedian, whether you like him or not, I'm just going to quote him for a second here. The comedian Woody Allen, the playwright Woody Allen, once said that I am not afraid of death. I just don't want to be there when it happens.
Yeah.
And so everybody doesn't want to die a painful death. Nobody does. Everybody wants to die the same energy that I'm using and shaping to do my work. So do spirits have houses? If they want to, they can create them with their minds. Do they need shelter? No. Do spirits have a body? Not really, but they generate an image that looks like they have a body. Why? Because they don't like to look like nothing. And so they generate an energy by the process, scientific process, of using this all pervasive energy that might come from God. Now, I don't belong to any religions, but the idea is that I don't know where this energy comes from. I don't know. I don't know everything. And so it's just there.
Yeah.
And also, spirits generate what looks like clothing, but is actually energy. Very few people report seeing naked spirits. They usually see spirits in robes or like some partial flowy thing, which
Yeah.
is not really how spirits are. That's more of what's in the mind. And also, they see spirits dressed very nicely. We do not lose our sense of fashion when we pass on. So we like to look good. And
Well,
so we're going to generate clothing. It's not cloth, it's energy. We're going to generate maybe a white suit or a nice suit if you're a guy, or a nice dress if you're a girl, or whatever you want to wear. No judgmental stuff here. And because you're going out to function, spirits do things on the other side. They don't sit on clouds. They have concerts. They have restaurants. Is the food chicken? No. There's no such, it's not physical, it's energy, and very often used for social reasons. So they generate what looks like food, and maybe they're even eating it, but it's not, they have no innards, it's all energy. And it's done for social reasons. So do they have coffee shops on the other side? Yeah. Because people like to get together. I want to get together with my mom and my dad or my friends and all the rest of us. So we're going to get together at this particular restaurant over here on the other side, and we're going to have a little dinner. And is it from animal flesh? No, nothing like that. It's not physical.
is it
No
that?
animals were hurt in the making of this plate of food.
Yeah. So I wonder then, is it that we live this life here, this physical plane, to have these experiences so we could take them to the spiritual side with us? So say I'm on the other side and I have the cravings of pizza. Well, I've had pizza, so I know what it's like, so I could manifest it. Am I even close, or am I way off? Or
But you haven't had the heaven pizza yet.
oh,
And so what I'm saying is that, uh, yeah, we're going to eat stuff we like, and we're not going to eat stuff we don't like. It's not that it. We also, the mind is very powerful, and so things are going to taste like chicken. I'm using chicken as an example here, but the same thing would be true of pizza. And of course, it's going to be really good pizza, meaning that whether you generate it and create it, or somebody does it for you, like say you go to a restaurant on the other side and order pizza, and they don't have money up on the other side, so it doesn't cost
oh,
anything.
good.
And so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And somebody else makes it, it's probably going to taste pretty good. And also, you could change the sensation of it. So even if it had pepperoni on it and you didn't like pepperoni, you maybe couldn't taste the pepperoni, because it really is just energy that tastes like pizza or tastes like tacos, or matzo ball soup, or all the different things that people eat, and all the wonderful things people eat. And so I just don't think that things are all that much different on the other side, except for you can have anything that you want. The real negative part of the whole thing is that when the physical world is removed from your blockages, meaning that we're not so focused on the physical world, that we also then can see every little thing that we did in our lives,
Oh boy.
and also every little thing that other people did, and also how people thought about us and how people think about us. So it's very common for a spirit to go to their own funeral and go, wow, I didn't know that she felt that way about me, or he felt that way about me. I can see it. I can read their minds. It's telepathy. Telepathy is the natural communication system between spirits. But telepathy can also be transmitted from one spirit to another spirit, or a spirit to a person, and that can filter up into and be transmuted into what is like sound or sounds like sound. So that sometimes if a person hears their spirit guides and it says, hey, don't go to that party. I'm just warning you, I got a bad feeling about this, whatever. And a person goes, that's intuition. Intuition is psychic ability. Everybody has psychic ability. Psychic ability is nothing more than perception. And so if your spirit guide, or many people have many spirit guides, or a loved one, you hear a voice in your head and says, you know what, don't go to that party, or don't go into that park right now. You might want to pay attention. At least think about it a little bit, that you might be getting a warning from higher up saying that, you know what, there's somebody negative in there, or something negative is going to happen. Not always, but I get a lot of that, from my clients as well. And that's happened to me, so many times where we get these. And I think a lot of, people who are listening, watching this show would also be able to say, wow, I've got feelings about people. I've got feelings about empty spaces. You walk in, you're looking to rent an apartment or a condo or whatever, and you go in there and it looks right. It's perfect, but it doesn't feel right. And what you're probably picking up on is emotional energy. And so, and different things happen when you die. Some people kind of need a little bit of guidance. Dying is traumatic. Most people are pretty happy when it does happen, that they were in a bad spot anyways. That may not be true if you're in a car accident, but let's just say you were suffering, medically. And so it'd be better, when it's your time to go, it's your time to go. And so there's no more pain. There's no physical pain on the other side, but there is emotions, and there is emotional pain. And so looking at your life can be a very painful process.
Well,
we do things we're not proud of, every one of us. Oh, and I don't remember, when I forgot about that. I did that rotten thing when I was 8 years old or something like that. You're reminded of that. And people who think they're going to get away with crimes and murders and all these secret lives that they live are mistaken. Everybody knows. And even on a subconscious level, we know, but we can't always access it. You probably have heard of a term, the Akashic Records. It's very common in the metaphysical world. I'm more of a science guy than a metaphysical guy. And so I believe this is science. Doesn't mean there isn't a God. I think there is. And a God is a spirit, a person, like a personality, whatever. It's not a dry thing. And so I believe in creation and evolution, that they work together. They're not mutually exclusive. They work together hand in hand. And so things are created, and evolution also works on a physical level. Creation on a non-physical level, and evolution on a physical level. And so it's a nice universe. But when people die, Michael, that sometimes they need some guidance, like because they're confused. It's like, where am I? What's going on? I see my body there, or I'm running around. I think about my brother, and I got to go to my brother's house or my sister's house and say, hey, I feel fine. I'm here. You can't see me, but I'm fine. I feel fine. I know yesterday I was suffering from cancer, but you know what? I feel pretty good.
Well, yeah.
And so they see a beacon sometimes of light. And sometimes they'll say a hand comes out of a cloud. But these things are really beacons. Spirits don't live in the light. Sometimes I get this from a lot of psychics. I know I'm going to get a little bit of flack about this, but because I've been doing radio a long time and television, but spirits don't walk around in the light. What kind of boring stuff is that? What do you do? Walk around in life for eternity? It makes hell sound good. I mean, it's kind of like, no, I want to do some stuff. I want to have some fun. I want to do some things. That's what spirits do. They look at their lives, and sometimes it's very painful to all of us. We do things that we regret. We do things we wish that we would have done that we didn't. I could have helped those people.
Yeah,
I
see,
shouldn't have lied to those people.
that's my thing
That
too. I always says I don't want to be 80 on my deathbed and say, "Boy, I regret. I wish I did this or did that." So, I try to do what
well,
I like.
yeah, and too much of the too many priests are not psychic, and they have no idea what's going on the other side, and so they make up this nonsense about, you're going to sing in the heavenly choir and also walk in the streets of gold. And the first thing I say is that, well, can I sit down? Are there park benches? Or do I
Yeah.
just pace back and forth? And
Well,
also, I can't sing. I tried out for Genesis Revisited one time as a joke. I know Steve Hackett, the guitarist, and we did a joke thing before the concert. And he goes, "Look, I want you to sing some bars." And it was at a really beautiful theater, not in front of the audience, thank God. I met him in Berlin, Germany at one time, and then when he came to the United States touring, that he's okay. We're doing Genesis songs tonight, and I want you to sing a Genesis song. And I sang it. I have a picture of it, and it was so horrible because I can't sing a note. I have like a radio voice, and I cannot sing a note. So I thought, the heavenly choir, I'm gonna get the shoot. If I
I
start singing, oh, you're so wonderful, you're so great, I'm so glad you're here. God does not need our adulation.
one
We
of
don't need
my
to say how
worst
great God is. The fact is, we're the ones in trouble. God's not in trouble. We are. We're not, God is not the immature ones. We're the immature race. God doesn't need our help. We need God's help.
yeah, oh, and badly
So the
today.
idea of going around and sitting around God for eternity and going, "Oh, you're so wonderful, you're so great, you're so great," it's going to be like, "Excuse me," God's going to say, "Go help somebody else less fortunate than you. You want to help me, go help somebody else. I don't need your help. You need my help. Why don't you go help somebody else who's less fortunate than you?" So what I'm saying is that it kind of goes into my own feelings, my own personal feelings about earthbound religions and the books that they write, who are essentially written by men who don't know anything.
Yeah.
They're not psychic. These priests were not psychic. They just wrote down some nonsense about how to control people. Oh, women are helpmates of men, and everybody should be put to death. And all this, and when you die, if you don't believe in such and such, I'm going to put you down in a place where you're going to boil in oil for the rest of eternity. Well, how is boiling in oil going to affect a non-physical being, or boiling in sulfur or whatever like that? It's all nonsense. And spirits don't remain in the same place anyway. So the idea of a spirit being sentenced to some place where they're going to be tortured forever, that's a real sick mind.
Yeah, you're more likely to be tortured, well, for a long time, right here in this physical plane.
And
That
also tortured by what you did when you were alive, when you realized that everybody was watching, that everybody saw what you did, whether it be small things like just stealing a car or taking some candy, or big things like murder, that everybody really knew, that everybody on the other side can see what you did clearly, and eventually everybody will know.
So what happens to a person who's murdered? And so do they ever take revenge, or it seems like some will tell on the murderer from the other side somehow, some way, and others don't.
Well, for one thing, I really do believe in multiple lifetimes. I think it's God's welfare plan.
Yeah.
And why keep on creating people when I can use the same ones? And also, it's about growing and changing and becoming a better person through different lifetimes and dealing with problems. Like say you were an alcoholic in one lifetime or whatever, and you need to learn how to deal with not using too many chemicals or something. And so somebody like a murderer, an unrepented murderer, not just maybe somebody who did something, in the heat of the moment or something, who's not really a murderer by nature, but people out there who like to kill people and like to hurt people, they're going to be coming back down here or some other planet. I believe that there's life on all sorts of planets, and they're going to have to face lifetimes of maybe being the victim and
Well,
learning
don't
what it's like to be murdered.
well don't we
And
all
it's
have
not
to come?
fun, not fun.
Don't we all have to come back? Or
I think that we normally do.
yeah.
But I think at some point, you can't learn anything more from the physical world, and you simply then eventually stay on the non-physical level. But I learned through astral traveling, which astral traveling is simply sending a portion of your mind or consciousness to a different level of consciousness. And through that, when I did a lot of the stuff back in the 1990s, Michael, I learned that there are many levels of non-physical reality. And that say, like, that angels are on a higher level, maybe a rarefied level of non-physical reality, where your average spirit like you and me are simply on a lower level of non-physical reality. And we don't necessarily know all the answers. We might find out who shot Kennedy or something,
Yeah.
but the idea is that we're not going to necessarily know exactly what God is. I'm not even sure that the angels know exactly everything about God. You know, that just because you're dead doesn't mean you know everything or everything comes to you. But spirits are a lot more perceptive because when you die, you're not so heavily focused on the physical. You don't have these
Well,
blockages like walls, trees,
right.
and things in front of us, and therefore, even though we can see them, that spirits can see the physical world, that we can also, our minds kind of go back to the natural shape, meaning that natural shape of perception. And so you can see everything you did in your life and everything that other people thought about you. That telepathy itself opens up, so to speak, completely. And for
Uh-huh.
some people, they fight against it. It's like, wait a minute, you're not supposed to be here. They get up to the other side or whatever, and all of a sudden it was like, hey, down there in this book it says you're supposed to be in hell or whatever, and what are you doing running around here having a good time? And then it said, well, that book was wrong. That's not how it is. And sometimes the reason I'm saying that is not to disparage religion. The reason I'm saying that is that is one thing that upsets people and makes them feel that they got cheated in life, and can even throw people over the edge and get them to say, oh, to H with it, and I'm gonna, bother people. I hate this place. That this is not what I wanted. I was told that you were not going to be here because you are a different color, a different religion, or a different sexuality, or a different whatever, that you are not going to be here, and that is simply not true.
And the one thing that I've heard that phrase often is, well, he knows everything now. It's because he's died. And no, probably not. But the one thing that you will know is that there is life after death. You'll know that for sure. Or and if there's not, you're not going to know anyways. But I believe there is. I've had experiences. I'm either out of my mind or it really happened. But and you say that you've got psychic abilities. You've had dealt with demonic entities. So for you, this is very, very real. I mean, what was it? I guess it must have happened very early for you. What was it that really put it in stone for you that life after death is real? I mean, was it the dark entities, the psychic abilities? What was it that really triggered it for you?
Let me explain to you the number one. I saw spirits when I was a kid, and and they weren't physical. When I was in classrooms, when I was a little kid, and so I don't know what they were. I didn't know what they were, but I figured that they were probably some kind of either from another dimension or something, or a spirit. But I'll tell you something that happened to me, and maybe this is just one. This kind of started sort of a process of things before even my business was around. I was in a university library in 1987, and I was reading. I don't sleep when I'm sitting up. I can't even sleep on an airplane or a train, and I never have. I fly over to Europe all the time, and I can't sleep. I never could. And so I just can't sleep sitting up. So I wanted the audience to know that so nobody thinks I was sleeping. I was actually reading a book, and all of a sudden I was somewhere else. And I figured it was my spirit guides or something that had put this into my mind. I was having an experience. I was sitting in an alcove by myself in a library, and the next moment I'm in a car. I'm in a truck, actually, because I looked up at the ceiling and I'm sitting next to a guy driving. I look up at the ceiling and it's a real high ceiling. So I thought it was like, this is probably some kind of old truck. This all happened like rather quickly within a span of like a number of minutes. And I looked over at this person who was driving, and he looked very different than me. And all of a sudden my vision changed. It was like somebody actually took me and put me in front of this person. And I looked into this person's eyes and I thought, this is me. I didn't look like me. Different color eyes, different color hair, different age, maybe 19 years old. And I had to be, 1987, I don't know, 27 years old. And this does not look like me, but this is me, I felt. I said, I knew in my mind, in my heart, this was me. And all of a sudden, bang. And I saw this person, he hit his head on the part of the car, or part of the truck, and all of a sudden I and this person at the same time are rolling down this road. Rolling down this road, and the next thing I remember is that I'm looking down at this body in the road, and I'm about 50 to 25 feet. For those listening in other countries, let's say 15 meters or so. And above, not only away, but above, I had essentially rolled out of my own body. And I looked down, and I saw the truck, which looked like something from maybe the 1930s, like a truck from the 1930s or early 40s. I'm not an expert in automobiles, but that's where, and it had hit a rock, an outcropping of rock on the side of the road, fast. And I looked down, and the first thing I thought was, I am dead.
Yeah.
Not a near-death experience. I said, that's me, and I am completely disconnected. I am dead. I'm lying in the middle of the road, and I had rolled right out of my body, and here I am. I had rolled right down the road. I hit the thing so hard that I actually probably broke my neck. I rolled down the road and right out of my body, and now I'm looking out at my body, and I think, wow, I'm dead. And Michael, the second thought that I had before I returned to my alcove in my library, also by an unknown force, was that I feel fine.
Probably better than you ever did before.
I said, okay, I'm dead, but I don't feel any pain. And also, I'm not dissolving into some kind of weird sun or fading out of existence or whatever, or turning to dust or anything. I am fine. I still feel like I'm me. And so at least I was kind of happy then. I was like, well, at least I'm okay. I'm dead. But it felt strangely familiar. Like, this has happened before. That's how I knew I was dead. It was like, I was kind of like, you kind of snap your fingers and go, I'm dead again.
Yeah, darn it.
So that kind of led, that's before I even, we're talking like 36 years ago. But, what I'm trying to get at is that it's experiences like that, and I had a lot more, I can tell you. This is just one of them. But these are the kind of experiences that led me to believe that there was life after death, for sure. Yeah. That essentially, that I thought to myself at the time, why are my spirit guides showing me this? They're showing me one of my deaths. Why? Now, I first had thought it's so I would never be afraid of dying. That's what I thought for several years. It was like, okay, I am not afraid of dying anymore because evidently it doesn't exist because, yeah, my body hit the ground and it's finished, but I felt fine. And I was completely together. Not one brain cell was out of whack. I felt very sharp, and I could see the physical world very clearly, except for everything seemed to have a little bit of a glow to it. Not a blinding glow, but every blade of grass, the truck, the road, everything seemed to give off this weird illuminating energy, like it was almost alive or something. It was real weird. And so that's what kind of I thought it was for me, and I think to a certain extent it was. But as I was started to do clearings on people at wellness centers, I used to work for a lot of wellness centers at the same time. I was not doing exorcisms there. I was just doing clearings on people. That was another part of my work. So I would just be most of my clients are like professional people, airline pilots and doctors and lawyers and radio show hosts and blue collar workers, everybody, military people. I work with everybody. I can say that, but I can't. That's all I can really say. And so these are normal people. And they just want to feel better, and they may just be like feeling negative over not feeling good or having a problem with their spouse or too much emotional energy, and they're releasing it. And so I'm doing clearings. And what I found out was, I'm bringing this back to the point, that essentially I started to tell them about this experience, and it really helped them. They would ask me, Jeffrey, is there life after death? And I said, well, I'll tell you this. Let me tell you something that happened to me. And I realized something then, that my spirit guides weren't doing that for me. They were doing that for my future clients. That all of a sudden that I would be telling all these people what had happened to me, that I would go on these radio shows, in the morning radio show with this person and this person, real popular radio shows. I would be doing television shows, and I would tell these people these different stories of mine, that just being one of them, and that it was really about helping other people. It actually really helped me want to get into this kind of work. I said, now I'm beginning to see a pattern here, that this really is not about Jeffrey-Seelman. This is about everybody else but Jeffrey-Seelman.
Yeah.
And so that now I'm able to say, this is what happened to me. This is why I think there's life after death, and other stories that I have that are true. I do not embellish stories, because if I embellish my books, I have 3 books out. If I embellish my books, then they are lies. And I can't think of anything worse in this world than me lying to you and lying to your audience about any little thing. That makes it a lie, and all of it's untrue. Then my reputation is gone. And so none of anything that I say is embellished in any way. It actually happened to me. I've had a very weird life. And so the beauty of the whole thing is that I'm able to help other people. My talents have increased as years gone by. I'm more psychic now than I've ever been in my life. I am older, got to go to the doctors more often and stuff, got to work on the machine as it gets older. But the idea is that I'm more psychic than I've ever been in my entire life, and I work every day at doing this stuff. And I'm just so happy to be able, and so honored to be able to help my fellow human being. That is the greatest gift that I could ever be given, and the greatest talents that I ever earned and acquired was the ability to help my fellow human being. And I think a lot of people out there feel the same way.
Yeah.
Whether you pick up garbage in the morning, whether you're a waitress, whether you're in government, whether you're doing this, all part of helping other people.
That's
right. I
right.
can't do that. People who cut hair, I can't cut hair. I think, God, you have a talent. You have a talent. And it's like, we really don't give each other enough credit. Each of us has these different kind of talents. A waitress, I tried being a busboy. I poured coffee over the whole table. It was a one-day job. And it's a talent to be able to sit there and go, here's your coffee. And I'm amazed at these things.
Oh,
I have
yeah.
nothing but respect.
I see them walking with these trays in their hand, and they've got all this stuff on it. It'd be a mess if it was me. An absolute mess.
I tip very well, because I think I couldn't, I carry a tray, it's going over. You might
Yeah.
even carry it with two hands. I would trip over something, you know. I get a little nervous serving people. It's not that I don't mind serving people. I like serving people, but the idea is that I couldn't do it because I just am not steady enough. I'm hyperactive. I'm not particularly like real poised
Yeah.
necessarily. It's not my talent, you know. It's a talent to pour coffee. It's a talent to ask people what they want for dinner. It is a talent to be able to pick up garbage, to sweep the streets, to do anything. It just amazes me. It's so disappointing to me how we are fighting with each other when we should be looking out for each other in 2023.
I agree.
It's the disappointment of my life. I grew up in the 60s during the Vietnam War. I kind of thought that stuff was kind of over with. And it looks like we're back for round two here in a worse way.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, s- Talking about life forces, what about bug? You know, I've had some people tell me, well, they say they're psychic, and they've come on and said, "Oh no, I actually had a psychic tell me animals don't have souls, bugs don't have souls. Don't all living things have that spark of life in them?"
Nothing could be alive without a soul, without a soul. Nothing could be alive without a soul. All animals have souls, individual souls, not some group soul thing.
Yeah,
Dogs have souls, cats have souls, opossums have souls, bugs, insects have souls. I believe that even trees,
yeah,
plants have some kind of soul. Everything that's alive has a soul, and that cannot be destroyed. Souls are indestructible. Souls are us, and so all animals have souls. That's just a way of demeaning animals and saying that because they don't speak English, that somehow, or some other language, some all the wonderful languages in our world, that because they don't speak maybe our language, but they do bark, like say a dog, and they speak to each other, and we also understand sometimes what they say when they're barking. I want food and I want it now, and or take me for a walk. That they do have souls. These psychics are wrong.
yeah. Well, I kind of question their so-called psychic abilities when they tell me things like that
They don't
because,
have a lot of psychic abilities if they can't see a soul.
well,
I
right.
can see a soul.
I mean, you have,
A soul is a person. A soul is the animating force, the intelligent everything, the actual being behind the physical body of any creature, be they alien, be they an animal or a insect or anything, a plant. Did I leave anything out? I'm sorry. They all have individual souls.
oh, everything
And
right
the
down to a
psychics who say
flea.
they don't, I challenge them here and now to talk about that, and I will tell them why they're wrong in many different ways from many different angles.
No, absolutely. I think everything. You know, I mean, I've seen those auras you're talking about with the grass and the trees. I mean, there's times I've seen that. I'm not psychic, but well, not blatantly psychic, anyways. I mean, you know, I'm pretty good at guessing what time it is, but that's about as far as mine goes. So, uh, you teach people then how to rid themselves of this negativity and these negative energies. And if you want, before we close out tonight, I'd like to give you the floor for one to get out anything else you'd like, but kind of go into you know, how people can get a hold of you and what you can do for them as far as helping them with, you know, protect themselves.
With the help of my spirit guides, Michael, I have created a whole bunch of really easy to learn and easy to practice techniques that will keep you safe from negative emotional energy that is generated by other people and even spirits. The real danger is not negative spirits and demonic spirits in our world today. The real danger is how we treat each other. When people are thinking in a negative way or positive way about people, we're actually throwing them sort of an energy communication system. It kind of like looks like a bit like a laser beam visually to me, but it acts more like a pneumatic tube at a bank, meaning that emotional energy travels through this tube. And one of the things I do is I dissolve negative connections between people and spirits, but more often it's between people. And so the techniques that I teach can be brought up in 3 seconds to 5 seconds flat. They're non-denominational. They have nothing to do with religions, but they can be used with your personal religion. So you can actually add them on. I have also developed audio lessons, and I have 3 audio books available on my website and on Amazon as well. At least one of my first ones on Amazon, which is really good. But a lot of my books are more workbooks. They're more about teaching. The first book actually goes into my history of metaphysical things that have happened to me, and that chapter itself is 2 hours long. But most of my books are workbooks about things that the average person can do in order to fend off negative emotional energy attacks from people. We all have people thinking about us at work, maybe in our home life, and people who, like say, are famous celebrities might have 1 million people thinking about them in positive ways or negative ways, depending on the movies that they make.
Yeah.
And so just think about it, 1 million people thinking about you, and essentially they're making some kind of connection. They don't have to know where you are. Every person has a unique vibrational rate. It's kind of like DNA. So each individual person has a unique physical DNA and also a unique non-physical vibrational rate that acts kind of like a DNA. So they don't have to know where you are. They just have to know who you are. And so a lot of people get huge amounts of energy thrown at them. I work with a lot of people that are very famous. And so the idea is that a lot of people are thinking about them. I developed these techniques that can be brought up in 3 or 5 seconds. And there's a lot of them, different ways to bring these things up that are very natural and very scientific. And I explain them very carefully so that you understand what I am talking about and how they work. It's not magic. It's not religion. It's science. And they work. I'm not disparaging anybody with religion, because I want to say something about religion here. I've said a few things that were negative about it, and I want to say something positive. Most religious people are nice that I've met. And whatever religion they belong to, they're just regular people. And one of the things I find interesting about religious people is that a lot of them say things like, well, after I die, I'm going to go and see my relatives, and I'm going to go see my friends. And the reason I go to church is that I'm going to go see, I want to be with them after I die. I want to continue our relationship, be it friendship or be it something more, or all Christians or all Muslims or all whatever, religion you belong to. I've got really good news for you. That's going to happen. You're going to see your loved ones after you die. You're going to see your friends. You're going to see your friends from church after you die. That is going to happen. So what I'm saying is that you're right. That part of it is right. Be happy. Be happy about that. But don't be angry. And don't say that, that somehow that just because these people are different and you don't agree with their lifestyle or something, that they don't deserve to be in heaven after they die. Because you're going to be disappointed when you see that they're there. Maybe you'll say, hey, I'm wrong. But most people don't go, wow, I was wrong.
Well, you feel differently,
angry,
you think,
so,
about people. Would you feel differently, you think, about people you may not like in this lifetime? And then, I mean, you get on the other side. I guess you said earlier we don't feel any different. So I guess we still be hateful then, some of us.
It's a place where we can also make amends with people.
Okay.
Because now that we can see how they truly felt, we might realize that maybe they weren't feeling so good. Maybe they were angry about their lives, and the reason they were cruel to people. I'm not talking about murderers. I'm talking about your average person that maybe you didn't have a good relationship with your mother or father or friends or whatever, or your ex-wife, ex-husband, significant other, whatever. And so the idea is that maybe after you pass on, that you might get together and talk about it and say, look, I'm really sorry. You can see that maybe that they were very unhappy, they weren't feeling good, and you kind of see things from their side, and you understand them a little bit better and say, you know what, a lot of us did things that we regret, and you may forgive them and you may not. I don't think it's all that important whether you forgive people or not. I don't think it's all that necessary. I don't think it's required, and I don't think you should all the time. Some people don't deserve our forgiveness.
That's true.
They do terrible things, and they like that, and they're awful people, and nobody on the other side is going to talk to them. They're going to be ostracized, and if necessary, quarantined by higher spirits. What people call hell is actually quarantine areas on the other side that sometimes spirits have to be put into. Sometimes I participate in this when it comes to demonic spirits or very negative spirits that simply cannot learn their lessons and get along with people even after they're dead, and they continue to attack people, and they need to be quarantined for a while with other spirits that are as stupid as they are, and as mean as they are, and as ugly-minded as they are. And eventually they're going to get out of that, hopefully, and they'll be let loose so they can live with other spirits. But they're not going to be allowed to attack other spirits. And there are spirits out there, kind of like a police force, kind of like what I do. I'm kind of like a police officer. I almost joined the police force after high school. I don't like criminals, especially violent criminals. They really bug me.
Yeah, me too.
Instead of joining the Air Force, because I didn't like, at that time, like marijuana was illegal, and I was not going to bust people for marijuana. And so instead of joining the police force, I went into the Air Force.
Ah.
Because I just thought it was like, I'm not going to become a police officer and start roughing people up for small offenses. I was going to go after the big fish and bust people who were hurting people.
And so, Jeffrey, where can people contact you? What kind of information do you want them to know? How they can get a hold of you? And I want to thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thanks, Michael. My website is starclear.com, exactly how it sounds. All one, phrase put together, words, starclear, starclear.com. You can also find me probably by typing in Jeffrey-Seelman on the internet. There's a lot about me out there, but starclear.com. My name is Jeffrey-Seelman. Right now I'm living back in my hometown of Milwaukee for a time being. I really love it here. It's a very beautiful town, very close to Chicago, and you'll learn everything you want to know about me there. Probably. I'm very easy to talk to. I don't charge for consultations because I don't know if I can help you or not. I won't know until I talk to you. And so that's why I don't charge for my time. I charge for the session. And so if you want to talk to me to say, hey, what are you about, Jeffrey? What are your feelings about this? This is my problem. All clients are confidential. I don't even write anything down. And so I don't keep notes. And so, because I work with a lot of people who don't want to be known that they see me. And so, and that's the way it's going to be. No one's ever going to get it out of me. And so the idea is that get a hold of me because I'm very informal. And I'd love to talk to you and find out if I can help you. And maybe I can and maybe I can't. And I'm going to be honest about it, meaning that if I can't help you, I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to respect you enough to tell you that I can't help you. And if I feel that I can help you, I'm going to tell you that I can help you and explain to you how I can help you. But I don't charge for consultations, really easy to talk to, very friendly, and just get a hold of me. All my contact information is there on the internet, Skype stuff, Zoom stuff, email addresses, telephone numbers of various kinds, text numbers. They're all there on starclear.com. So just get a hold of me and talk and let me know what's going on, and let's see if I can help you.
All right, Jeffrey, thank you so much for being a guest here tonight on The Last Frequency. Keep up the great work, and until we talk again, stay safe.
Thanks for having me on, Michael. It's just a pleasure.
Absolutely. The pleasure's all mine. Thank you, sir. All right, folks, there he goes, Jeffrey-Seelman. Again, you go over to his website, you'll learn quite a bit more about what he does and how he can help you. And man, what a quick show this was. It's just gone by very fast. I want to take one last break, partly because I want to just test some stuff too. I'm still testing stuff, and so I want to take that one last break, and I'm going to do that now and see. I had to change volume levels. Thank you, Mr. Black.